It's time for another episode of Pathway to the Podium. Big week ahead in U.S. sports. The men's and women's Final Four is this weekend. Next week, the Masters gets underway. These events are some of the largest on the U.S. calendar each and every year. They tend to draw in a lot of TV viewers and have high levels of attendance. And considering this, very happy to have on the pod today Scott Friedman, co founder of Ticket Talk Network, where he discusses all things relating to the primary and secondary ticketing markets of sporting events, concerts, theater, and other forms of entertainment. He has been featured in many publications, including recently The Athletic and USA Today, analyzing World Cup and Super Bowl pricing. Scott, thanks for being here.
Jake, it's great to be on. Love doing these, and no, what a great time to be alive and live events and ticketing. Such a busy time of year here this spring and heading into summer for the FIFA World Cup, which we'll get into. It's just so many amazing live events going on with MLB opening day and Final Four and so forth. And yeah, we'll get into it all. It's such an awesome time of year. My favorite.
So, do you think March, April is the best time of the year in the U.S. sports calendar?
I think it is. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe I'm biased. I love March Madness. I love the Masters. I'm heading down to the Masters. I'm in Atlanta right now for next week's tournament to cover all the ticketing stuff. And I just think it is. Some people say it might be the Super Bowl. Some people say that um, maybe it's Coachella. We got Coachella next week. So it's just,
Yeah.
I think in late March and early April, just so many things colliding all at once together in all sectors of the business and sports and music festivals and concerts and Final Four and Masters. So like what makes early April the best time of year for live events for sure.
It's pretty awesome. It really is, without a doubt. So, Scott, before we get into any specific details here, would you mind providing the viewers and our audience here some background, who you are, and particularly why you got into this industry? Because it's kind of a niche thing. I'm
Yeah.
just so glad to have you because very few people actually are really familiar with all of this. So, please go right
Right.
ahead.
Yeah. Ticketing is very complex and a lot of folks, a lot of fans, as I explain it every single day, they seem not to get a grasp. So I guess I'm blessed for some reason I have a massive understanding of the ticketing market. I'm not very smart in other fields and so forth, but no, I've been in the industry ever since really I graduated college 20 years ago. I'm getting really old, and I started my career with the Cleveland Cavaliers organization where I worked as a night sales telemarketer. So it was a part-time role, and our job back then, we didn't have any sales force, have any technology really for leads. So we literally picked up the white pages and started cold calling for Cleveland Cavaliers packages
Wow.
from 6 to 8:30 p.m. at night, about 3, 4 times a week. And really, it kind of was like a reality TV show. They said that the top person would get a full-time job within the organization. Um, I ended up being the top full leader in sales and was able to get a full-time role within the Cavaliers organization back in the fall of 2007. And I sold their minor league hockey team. We sold the Cavs and really was like the best like 2 years of my life. I had a blast. I worked my behind off and really after that I wanted to get into management and did a couple sales manager roles, and GM of ticket sales roles throughout the next really decade. Was able to lead the University of Illinois sales team for 5 years. Ironically, we didn't have a Final Four run like they do this year, which I'm jealous of. But really had an amazing time. Met some amazing people. Really learned how to manage people. And really, in my time in Illinois, kind of was like an aha moment. Really, the last couple of years because we did so many deals with ticket resellers and selling secondary deals, and I really got very intrigued by the secondary, and I took a job with the Ventilex in the spring of 2018, did that for a year, went over to DTI, sold broker software tools, did rights holders deals, um, really did well there. Of course, the pandemic hit really about 6 years ago right now in April of 2020 that shut down live events completely. Um, Really for about 18 months, it really wasn't back to normal. And really after that, it kind of was like a reset button. I'm like, you know what? I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Kind of got sick of the corporate America politics, and just
You
decided to
you and me both, Scott. You and me both. Yeah.
no, yeah, love to hear your story. We'll have you on Ticket Talk to talk your story, and so forth. And it just gives me the grass over the last 6 years or so that I need to show up every single day. Every single day is the same. Weekends don't exist in my life. I don't have a family. I'm single, so every day is the same, and every day is all about providing value for the folks I could solve for, providing value for the 70 resellers in my Ticket Talk Discord group, which really is a 7 day a week full time job. I'm looking at my phone constantly of what's going on and really just keeping track of the markets and everything going on, being up to speed, and really in my social media presence, really just kind of educating the fan, the reseller, of what's going on day to day 365, 24/7 in live events and ticketing. So love what I do, and it's an ultimate grind, but every day I wake up, I love what I do, and it's I don't have to get dressed go in the office, so you can't beat it.
That's really, really cool. But before we get into anything as specific here, you mentioned the pandemic, and out of curiosity, were you surprised with how long it took for live events to really come back, or was it about the timeline you expected? Like you said, it's about 18 months, and it varied a lot in the different industries. It wasn't uniform across all of them. But was that about the duration you thought it would take for things to start kicking up back in, or did it take longer than you thought,
I thought it was
or
gonna be a
shorter?
lot shorter. So
Okay.
when I was working DTI management at the time, and literally we were just preparing for like a 90-day pause within live events in the world. I know at the time, and I was talking to senior leadership there, we were like rolling at DTI. We were doing extremely well, and I was literally hanging out in the DC area doing nothing for about 90 days, waiting to see if we would start back up, because like July 2020 was the target date. Obviously that didn't happen. And obviously there was no revenue coming in. So 2020 was just like a tough year. It really was a year where it was probably and it's not just for me, it's probably the majority of the world. It was kind of the most unproductive time in my life. There just was nothing really going on, and in live events and ticketing, and I just was figuring out what I was gonna do back then, and a lot of it was figuring out other industries, what was going on. I was interviewing for jobs in other industries I had no idea about, and I was finalist for a lot. I didn't get any, which is a blessing in the sky, because if I did, I'd probably be not talking to you right now. I'd be in some other field, probably not enjoying my work very much. And it just was an 18-month pause. It was a brutal pandemic, and it killed live events. But when it really rebounded in the second half of 2021, it came back stronger than ever. And really, the last 5 years or so, it's just been extremely strong. People got the FOMO effect, and more than ever, obviously, with always talks of recessions and so forth, I don't really see it slowing down much at all. People want to get out, they want to attend concerts, they want to attend sporting events, and it's just kind of a thing that pandemic gave us. It kind of gave us like never take anything for granted, because we were literally stuck at home for about 18 months or so during the pandemic, and people were so stoked to get back to sporting events, concerts, festivals after it. And it's really been like a boom in the industry ever since, besides a couple hiccups that happened here and there, of course, in the ticketing chaos world.
Yeah, I think I just thinking back during that time as sports started to reemerge, it felt that people as a whole who were attending the events kind of appreciate it a bit more than they previously did. Yeah, this like they really enjoyed again that collective experience that they had been lacking for a year and a half of or even
Right.
later. So I for one, and you, I know this is true for you too, are very very happy to see things back on the uptick for the most part. Obviously, there's some exceptions. Some smaller leagues never really recovered from it. It's a case by
Right.
case basis, but
Mhm.
in terms of like the biggest names, the biggest sports, the biggest brands, they seem to be doing quite well, regardless of that downturn, regardless of economic concerns at the moment. It seems to be pretty strong.
Yeah, extremely strong. I mean, we talk about it just like sports leagues have flourish. I mean, concerts are really seeing the benefit. Concerts have been absolutely on fire, and obviously there's events that always don't do well and so forth. I mean, that's just that doesn't matter what time of life it is and so forth. There's always good events, there's always bad events and live events and ticketing. But just at a high level overall, people were so stoked to get back to live events. And I mean, really 5 years later, I mean, it's really the same. And even though that there's always challenges. I mean, NBA, NHL have challenges during the regular season, but MLB is doing very well. NFL is doing very well. College football is doing very well. And it's just I think we took it for granted that we weren't able to do anything for about 18 months. And I think people have been taking the opportunity to attend as many live events as possible since the pandemic, which is great.
It really is, yeah. So let's talk a bit about the Final Four. Like I said, it is
Yeah.
this weekend. The women's Final Four is Friday and Sunday. Men's
Yeah.
Final Four is Saturday and Monday. So really important 4 days here. Out of curiosity, Scott, and I know this is something that you do a lot on your Twitter, on your social media, you really like to focus on what's going on exactly with the ticketing market. And just full disclosure for our viewers and audience here, we're recording this Friday morning. And since we're talking about markets, markets obviously can change in real
Yeah.
time. But if we could start with the men's Final Four, how does this men's Final Four right now, Scott, compared to last year's in terms of ticketing demand?
Yeah, so this is a definitely an enticing, intriguing Final Four. You got the University of Illinois, my former employer that I'm very proud of. They're an hour and a half from Indianapolis, and I can tell you right now they're absolutely stoked. This is their first Final Four appearance, literally in 20 years. To the day they got back in 2005, 21 years to be exact. Their fan base is absolutely stoked. You got Michigan also in the Big Ten, not very far from Indianapolis, about 3.5. Obviously, massive storied Big Ten fan base. Then you have Arizona out west, basketball school, lots of money out there, definitely helping drive the ticket price. And then you kind of have UConn. That's kind of a situation where you kind of have winning buyer fatigue. They've been there, they've done that. Are they very excited to travel to Indianapolis? It's not showing in ticket sales. So, 3 out of the 4 teams are definitely bringing demand in for the semifinal on Saturday night. The lower level is absolutely crazy. So, to get in for a lower level, anywhere besides the 600 level, you're going to get your Louis Vuitton wallet, as I always say on Ticket Talk, and you're going to pay about $1,500 to get in
Wow.
the lower
Okay.
level. If you're going to be sitting in the straights, 10, 5, 10, 15 rows up, you're probably going to be paying well over $10,000. So very, very expensive, probably the most expensive Final Four Saturday we have ever seen in the history of the men's Final Four, with Illinois, Michigan really kind of leading that charge. I always talk about the Big Ten. We talk about it too, like the Indiana football effect for the national championship for football. Big Ten is really storied alumni. These alumni have deep pockets, and when a school like Illinois hasn't been in 20 years, they kind of have like the Indiana effect for football for the national championship. They're really bringing in demand. It's just kind of a perfect storm since they're literally an hour and a half from campus. Chicago's where most of their alumni are, about 3 hour drive from Chicago to Indianapolis. So kind of just a perfect storm to have a very, very massive ticket for Final Four on Saturday for the men's basketball tournament.
I think the geographic proximity is definitely a really important factor here. Like you said, Indianapolis, of course, also is a location that people are very familiar with when it comes to NCAA events or other championships. I mean, it's frequently on their Super Bowl rotation, of course. It's
It
essentially a
is.
city that is almost tailor made to host conferences, to
Right.
host sporting tournaments. So they really got that
Great.
down pat. And like you said here, very, very close distance wise in traveling for multiple teams. And then as well with Arizona, with them, it's been literally a quarter century since they last were in the
25 years.
Final Four. So there's a pent up demand there. There's excitement there with that. And plus that the supporters of that team, they tend to travel pretty well. So I'd assume that, they're really coming out in full force. Maybe not as strong, obviously, as, like the Big Ten country itself. But I mean, I definitely think that they'd be showing up.
Yeah, absolutely. No, Arizona, definitely massive base, 25 years, like you said, since their last Final Four. So they're definitely driving the ticket price up, definitely in the lower level. Upper level, you can get a ticket for about $400. There's more obviously supply in the upper level. The problem is at a Final Four for a basketball in an NFL stadium, the 600 level, you got to bring your very good binoculars to see the court. It's like kind of a Where's Waldo effect. When I went to the Final Four 2 years ago, I went up to the top level just to take a look at it. I'm like, man, it is very far to see a very small basketball court all the way up in the peanut heaven of the upper level for Final Four. So that's why the lower level just brings so much more demand than the upper. But many of these items, Jake, and like is a bucket list thing. So just to have a ticket, say you were there, definitely means a lot for these folks, specifically if you're related to any of the four schools in the Final Four.
I believe it without a doubt. Yeah. So in comparison, last year's Final Four, and that one had Houston, and it was hosted. I believe it was San Antonio, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that is relatively close too, geography wise.
Mhm.
But yet you're saying that this time around there is much more demand because I guess you have two teams that are very,
Yep.
very close. Is that really like the most likely difference to
Yeah.
account for this increased demand?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
obviously, Houston had a great basketball program. Obviously, they're driving distance to San Antonio last year, but obviously, Houston was really the only team that really was had the easy travel. This year, you got Michigan, Illinois. I mean, just imagine if I mean, it could have been. We were obviously tracking. We were seeing at Purdue. I mean, Purdue's local in West Lafayette, just up the road from Indianapolis. I couldn't even imagine if they made the Final Four, what prices would be right now because that's just another I don't know, probably 100,000 fans looking to go to the Final Four in the ecosystem. So it's still crazy with Illinois, Michigan, Arizona, but with Purdue, we'll never know what it'll be with them being a local team. But yeah, like I said, hottest Final Four of all time. It really doesn't compare. It's really kind of just a collision course of geographically having the alumni, having the current students being able to drive to the Locust Oil field house for the games, which is great for the fans.
Yeah. How does Easter factor into this, Scott, at all? Because it's a holiday weekend,
Yep.
and last year Easter came later, so that didn't overlap with the Final Four. Does that
Right.
matter at all, or is it just the fact that it's the Final Four is the Final Four, and it's
Right.
more just maybe it's a little boost, but nothing too different.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be an interesting case study to see like has Easter affected your travel for the Final Four, and I'm sure there's a couple people that are very religious, and obviously Easter is a very holy holiday. That say yes, Easter takes precedence over sports tickets, but I think the majority, if I were to estimate that data right now, what you'd actually have to do it to see how it would come out. I would say only affects about a very few percentage points of the fans attending. I mean, obviously games are Saturday and Monday, so literally, if you're in Illinois, if you're in Michigan, you can literally come Saturday. If your team wins on Saturday night, you can go celebrate Easter with your family Sunday and come back Monday night for the championship game since it's so close in proximity. So I don't think it affects a lot. It affects some people, but in the scheme of things, I think the majority of the people say, you know what, this is a bucket list thing. We're going to spend Saturday through Monday night in Indianapolis, obviously hoping our team will win on Saturday to play in the championship game on championship Monday. So I don't think Easter comes into play as much as we think.
Mm. You have a saying that you like to say quite frequently. It pays to wait.
Yeah.
And out of curiosity, again, this is a football stadium that's hosting a basketball game, so it's I don't know the exact number, but like I mean, it's 60,000 or something, whatever,
Yep.
give or take to account for the
Yep.
exact format of the court,
Mhm.
etc. Uh, Up at like with if we're like 12 hours out or so, just hypothetically, do you still see prices drop? And if you do, how much of a drop would that be on average?
So Saturday, I mean, just look at the current marketplace. I mean, lower level is not going to drop, and lower level is going to surge. So if you're waiting for a lower level, I've been telling all my folks, you better buy today because I think if you wake up on Saturday morning, you're going to see have very high prices because there's just not much supply left in the lower level. Upper level, a different story. A lot more supply. People don't really want to sit up there, and unless
Mhm.
it's kind of more of like a bucket list item. Obviously, it's very far away from the court. Um, I think it pays to wait there. I think that if I had my crystal ball and you're obviously playing this on replay, I think you'll be able to grab a ticket in peanut heaven in the 600 level, probably between 300 and 350. I think the market's well over $400 right now. So for upper level, I'm saying pays to wait. For lower level, I'm saying it doesn't pay to wait. And probably by now, obviously this is in the future. So we'll see how it turns out. So upper level pays to wait, lower level is going to surge.
Okay, good to know. That's definitely helpful. Shifting to the women's game, women's Final Four. Interesting fact here, it's the
Yeah,
same four teams as it was last year.
it is.
And one of the semifinal matchups, UConn, South Carolina, is a rematch of last year's championship game.
Yeah.
So, with it being the exact same four teams, you have fewer variables at play here. I guess one of the largest variables would be, of course, the location. This year's is in Phoenix, last year's was in Tampa. What's
Right.
the demand look like for tickets here, Scott?
Now the women's Final Four, the demand is obviously up too. I'm looking at a $200 get-in tonight here in Phoenix, and obviously story franchises, and obviously Caitlin Clark's done a ton for the women's basketball community and the game, and it's it's definitely trending higher than I anticipated. I mean, obviously UCLA has a massive base, quick flight from LA to Phoenix. UConn obviously has a massive women's base like they do with men's, I think. Their women's team actually travels better than their men. So I think that's
Hmm.
kind of what's creating this $200 get in. I'm seeing obviously a smaller arena to NBA arena where the Suns play. So demand is holding up for the women's Final Four this year more than I anticipated.
Yeah. And fun fact here for the women, it's the second time the Final Four has featured the same exact teams in back-to-back years, other
Wow.
one being in 1995, 1996, yeah.
Wow. I got some
And
stats now.
yeah, and it's the fifth time all four number one seeds have advanced to the women's Final Four. So quite interesting, actually. And I think what is intriguing here maybe is just you have the same exact teams, but I feel maybe I'm reading it wrong, but at least to me, it feels like there might be a little more excitement behind it. And maybe that's just a reflection of the growth of the women's game as a whole, or maybe it's just that these teams think they have a better chance of winning. I don't know, but to me, it feels like the demand would be slightly higher.
Yeah, women's sports are just on fire right now, and
Yeah.
it's really great to see. I mean, the women's soccer league's on fire, women's hockey's on fire, and just like basketball, I think like you can give credit. I think Caitlin Clark, the phenom, really just pumped up the female base and the male base to really see these women rock stars play and so forth. Because really, like over the course of time, and it's just like women's tickets obviously were 10x cheaper than men's tickets, and that is not the case anymore in 2026. So it's great to see massive interest in the Final Four, massive interest in the WNBA with Caitlin Clark. Hopefully, she stays healthy this upcoming season. But it just shows that women are stoked to go to sporting events to support their gender, and I think it's amazing what's going on.
Yeah, and you mentioned women's soccer, NWSL,
Yeah,
the Denver franchise, they just had their home debut. I think it was
saw that.
last weekend, and it was I think it was like over 60,000, I think
Yeah,
63,000, something like that.
amazing.
Which again, and that's in the Denver Broncos home stadium,
Yep,
and it was essentially, with the exception of like the absolute raft of seats, was essentially full. And that's for
right.
a brand new team with with new players essentially, and it did that well. I mean, that's incredible.
Absolutely incredible. No, I mean, when I looked at those numbers and I look at these every day, I'm like, am I looking at the right chart? Am I looking at something else? And I wasn't. So I really discovered that the demand for the women's soccer league literally about 2 months ago, or no, literally like 30 days ago. So it's amazing, and it's very exciting because the women's sports, I mean, they're just knocking it out of the park. They're amazing athletes, and they should be treated just like the men are. And it's great to see that all these leagues are flourishing, and I hope they continue to.
Yeah, and the WNBA, they got their labor dispute,
Right. They
done.
got that settled.
They finally got it done. I know there are lots of marathon nights there,
Yep.
in Manhattan as they were, just hashing out all the aspects of the new CBA. So
Yep.
fortunately, they're not going to miss any games, and that season's right around the corner too. We're looking about a little over a month before the regular season
Yeah,
tips off.
absolutely, yeah. WNBA kicks off in May, and, let's hope Caitlin Clark stays healthy this year.
Yes, yeah.
But she's the LeBron James, Michael Jordan of the WNBA, and the league needs her, the fans need her, and, I'm stoked to see her play this summer.
Yeah. I think we all are, without a doubt.
Absolutely.
All right, let's switch sports here to golf, the Masters. This is, the pinnacle of the sport.
Yeah.
Fans who want to see this in person,
Mhm.
they plan a trip to Augusta. It's an iconic golf course. They start
Yeah.
looking at flights. They try to find lodging, and it's hard enough to find lodging in and of itself because there's a limited
Right.
amount of places to stay at.
I'm
But when
having
it
some
comes,
issues, so if you
yeah.
can help me this weekend, absolutely, I'm actually, to Augusta, and,
Yeah,
I have no
maybe,
idea where
yeah.
I'm gonna stay. It's because there's nowhere to stay. So no, the Augusta is, the pinnacle of golf, like you said, the most storied, golf tournament ever, first major of the year for the tour, and, as a, just a fan myself, I mean, it's been a bucket list for me to, attend a Masters my whole life, and, I'm gonna check that off when I go to Monday's practice round, but the ticketing part of it is absolute chaos. I don't know if you watched my content from about a year ago. It's just Augusta's extremely strict. They don't want ticket brokers, listing on the secondary markets, and, they kinda laid the hammer down last year and, said that if you didn't kinda win the lottery, you didn't buy the map and flag, the badge wasn't registered in your name, you were getting interrogated in their box office, and, I know some people were able to talk their ways through it and get in the gates, and a lotta disappointed fans that and it's kinda sad, we interviewed a lot of them last year that traveled from all over the country, paid a lot of money, therefore to get denied at the gate and not being able to attend the Masters, which was absolutely, horrible, but that's what Augusta does. They don't want resellers, and they really wanna remain the integrity that if you don't win the lottery, you're not grandfathered in with a badge, or you're not buying one of their high six-figure, map and flag premium packages. It's just, you're not getting in. So they wanna keep it to the elite of the elite, and, it's building tremendous scarcity here for the 26 Masters, really nothing on the exchanges because people don't wanna take a risk, so it's kinda going back to old school, which I'll be covering, early next week on Ticket Talk, is what the market is on the street for Masters tickets in 2026. So we're going back in time here this weekend.
Yeah, so just to pause for 1 second here, if you could provide further insight, Scott, exactly how this process works, because
Yeah,
you have like multiple lists. You have a lottery that's open for like the public, but you also have a patron list as well.
right.
If you could explain the differences between that for people who aren't familiar with that.
Yeah, so the lottery, happens every July, and it's, I think they take about 10,000 winners from it. Obviously, you have millions and millions of entries, so the odds are not very good, probably a couple percentage points to, win out of 100. So if you win that, you obviously get in. You also have the grandfathered in passes that folks have got for many generations. So if you live like in Augusta, the community, you do get opportunity to purchase badges every single year. I hear that they are canceling a lot of those. So say if your grandfather had them, he died, it would not be able you would not be able to inherit them down through the family. It's just done once a person passes away. So they're really trying to make it extremely difficult. They do have a map and flag premium package that On Location sells very secretly. They don't even really advertise it. If you look On Location's site, they don't even advertise it. We thought they would. But Augusta really just kind of wants to keep things really on the hush hush. It's kind of like the country club event. They only want certain amount of people to buy those premium packages through Map and Flag. And we're talking folks are spending probably close to $1 million for the week to have hospitality, food, and passes for the, event. So, there really isn't many ways to get into Masters, and it's really kinda now relying on guys to literally buy passes, have them walk you in with the badge associated with them, and it's just creating a scarcity market where I mean, passes for Monday going for 2,000 and passes for Tuesday, Wednesday are at the $5,000-6,000 range, and
Mhm.
Thursday through Sunday, they're up to $10,000 because there's just no supply. There's no resale on the market, which is creating crazy, crazy demand in a closed ticket market for Augusta National. So it's disappointing. I don't like it. I'm fortunate to have a pass through one of my buddies. It's probably the only time I'm ever gonna step in Augusta National because it's just so hard to get into nowadays, which I kind of find it kind of a shame.
Mm. Now these tickets, which they refer to as badges, they have chips in them,
They do.
and this brings up kind of an interesting factor here. So
Yeah.
these chips are can be very useful to some extent because for security purposes, for safety purposes, Augusta can essentially see exactly where these badge holders are at all times. They can kind of control the flow of traffic, the crowd
Right.
control, which is important, obviously, because you don't want too many people in one location. You don't want there to be
Right.
a log jam at any specific hole, both for people's safety and for the players' safety, etc. But that also means that Augusta can track everyone entering and exiting out. And that's really important in terms of enforcing their policy of not having, a secondary market at play
Right.
here.
Yeah, those chips tell the story of everything, and that's like really what happens is when you a lot of people want to go in for 2 hours and give it the badge to a friend. Like that doesn't happen anymore. You can't just like trade badges anymore like you used to with the Masters. And they're just extremely strict. It's really kind of going through like TSA airport security. I hear when you get in, I'll experience it myself on Monday, but it's just if the badge doesn't say your name on it and you're not with the person that originally had the badges, I mean, you're going to be interrogated potentially in the box office. And I mean, I think some people can talk their way through, and some people are sent back to the parking lot on Main Street. So it's really just I think it's way overboard. I really think that it's kind of a shame. I think there's so many folks that have a bucket list to attend Augusta National and the Masters, and they never will be able to because just the tickets are so sparse. And even if you're wealthy, it's not an easy event if you don't know somebody to obtain a ticket to. So I don't like it, but it's their right. They're running it like a private event where they want to invite their members and patrons and obviously give the opportunity to select a couple lottery winners, but it's not good for the average Joe fan that has a bucket list to attend the Masters because unfortunately many won't be able to under these current circumstances.
Are there any other sporting events, Scott, that enforce the policy to this extent as the Masters does, or is the Masters really an anomaly here?
Only Wimbledon, and that's obviously in the UK. In London, Wimbledon's similar to the Masters with kind of this policy setting, but in the US, the Masters by far is the only event that holds this to literally like being interrogated inside of a box office if the pass doesn't say your name. So I find it disappointing. But they're obviously a private club. They can do what they want to do. And it is the most elite golf tournament ever. So it kind of builds, in a way, it builds more FOMO to find your way to get in the Masters. And but it's not good for the game of golf, in my opinion, to really make it a close, very, very impossible ticket to get into.
Mm. So there's going to be no Tiger Woods this tournament.
Yeah.
No Phil Mickelson. Phil Mickelson. He just announced that like
Right.
yesterday, whenever that was. So obviously, again, like you said, like these tickets, the lottery happens well in advance. So this
Right.
doesn't affect the primary market whatsoever. But
No,
in
there really
terms,
is no
but yeah,
primary.
but in
Right.
terms of the extremely sparse
Mhm.
secondary market, are you seeing? And again, it's kind of hard to identify precisely this, but do you think the lack of Tiger and Phil have any impact on that secondary market? Or do you think that that's so minuscule given the fact that there's so few tickets moving
So
on this?
miscues, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So it doesn't matter.
yeah.
He obviously sucks that Tiger had that incident last week with the car accident and hope he recovers soon. And Phil In other years, your question would be absolutely would affect the price because obviously there's just much more supply in the marketplaces where stars like Tiger, stars like Phil, um, it would drive down secondary prices in past years. But since there's so many few tickets on the market, it doesn't even matter if 50 unknown golfers were playing in this tournament because for me, and I think for so many other people with the lack of supply, I just wanna go and walk around Augusta and take it in. I don't even care about watching the practice round, watching the golf. I just wanna be on the soil of Augusta
Mhm.
National, and I think that's the majority how people feel, and just with the lack of supply, even with Tiger, even with Phil not playing in this year's Masters, it'll nothing will change in the, demand for the ticket market since there's such little supply on the secondary.
Mm. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Mm. Do you want to talk a Super Bowl at all?
Yeah, I love Super
Yeah.
Bowl. It's my,
Yeah.
favorite event we cover for 2 weeks straight, and, like, we've done it the last, 2 years or so, really 3 years, and, literally, we cover it for 2 weeks straight, the ticket market. We get the charts, we have it go up, we have it go down, and, by Sunday afternoon, a couple, hours before kickoff. I'm just absolutely exhausted. I feel it every year, but it's the best event in the world. It's another event that I need to get to. I'm gonna check the Masters off. Gonna check the Super Bowl off here, hopefully in the next couple of years. But Super Bowl is kind of more of a dramatic of traveling teams, right? So you didn't have a good Super Bowl this year. You really didn't have a good Super Bowl last year in New Orleans. Just the matchups weren't there, and obviously were teams that have been there, have done that. And I think for a Super Bowl market really to explode like it did in Vegas 2 years ago, and Vegas is kind of an anomaly in this because people just love to be in Vegas, and it was the most
Vegas is
expensive
Vegas.
Super
Yeah.
Bowl ticket
Yeah.
ever. I think it was $7,000, $8,000 ticket get in um, with the Chiefs, who they played 2 years ago. But it just is a unique event where if two teams aren't that good, or if two teams have been there, done that, like the Chiefs have been in the past, or like the Eagles have been in the past, you can find some amazing deals for the Super Bowl. You were able to this year and you were able to last year. But I can tell you right now, if the Dallas Cowboys make the Super Bowl, if the Green Bay Packers make the Super Bowl, if my hometown team, the Cleveland Browns, make the Super Bowl, I can tell you right now, everyone's getting their wallets out and they're going to spend whatever it is. So we haven't had that perfect storm of teams that haven't made it for several years, and I'm sure we will with the law of averages over the next couple of years. But it's number one biggest sporting event of the year. It's a 2 week tracker, the biggest ticketing event to track every single year. We have a blast doing it in late January, early February every single year, and it's moving always moves ups and downs, and the market swings are absolutely nuts for the Super Bowl.
And another factor too with the Super Bowl is that it's very, very corporate. A lot of the seats there are given to any sort of people that have kind of like a
Right.
commercial connection. It's not just your everyday fans who are clamoring for these tickets. A lot of them are pretty much allocated in advance.
Right. Yeah. Obviously, it's kind of similar to the Masters. Obviously, not as bad as the Masters, where you can actually purchase a ticket. But no, like you said, the corporate partners grab them up. Very few allowment goes to the season ticket base for each of the two teams that make it. And of course, you have on location experience, which is kind of like the monopoly for live events, for the biggest live events in the world with premium, that they sell very expensive packages to um bands and businesses and so forth. So, um, it's good and bad. I mean, obviously, it's bad in years where the Super Bowl's in Vegas and it's a $7,000-8,000 get in, but it's good in years where there's some supply and sometimes the market decays and it's a pace to wait, and bands could get in the Super Bowl for $3,000, which really has been the standard of case really for the last 10, 15 years or so. So, still a very expensive ticket. Not every fan could afford to attend the Super Bowl, which is a shame, but it's definitely a lot easier to obtain a ticket than Augusta National at the Masters.
Hmm. We also have the World Cup in the
Yeah,
United States this year,
crazy.
which is huge.
Mhm.
Uh, the way it works a lot of times with these global soccer tournaments, the international soccer tournaments, is that the prices for the tickets, ironically, for the most part, actually tend to be not that high.
Right.
With this U.S. hosted World Cup, U.S.
Yes.
being like the forefront, the believer in capitalism here,
Yep.
they are going much higher, and it's raising the eyebrows of lots of soccer fans who are saying, "Wow, this is really not like the this is not to the spirit of the event." They would say
Right.
that, oh, this should be much more accessible to the average fan, etc. I'm of the belief that, hey, supply demand is supply demand here. But what you're seeing some very high price tickets for the World Cup, and that begins in about 2.5 months time.
Yeah, now what a year in 2026 for live events. I mean, we got World Cup June and July, and the summer's gonna fly by because of it. You got 104 games. Obviously, yeah, you hear on Twitter every single day that the World Cup prices are extremely high. Obviously, FIFA's pricing them extremely high. They've kind of shot themselves in the foot, in my opinion, because there's just so much supply to be sold. So I think this is actually great news for fans, Jake. Obviously, some of the matches will be extremely high. Like I think 20% of the matches, like I would say 20 matches out of the 104 will be very expensive get-ins. Obviously, matchups will align and we'll see a couple $1,000 get-ins for those. But I think for 60, 70 of the games, specifically in the early stages, like I think fans will be shocked of the deals they'll be able to get. I think that some of these matches across the US, Mexico, and Canada will be about $100 get-in. So I think that it is a pace to wait mentality for the majority of these matches. Obviously, as we get into the later knockout rounds and obviously the championship and MetLife semifinals, those will be extremely expensive tickets, Super Bowl type prices. But I think we'll be surprised, and we're going to be covering it on Ticket Talk nonstop throughout the tournament that a lot of these matches will be affordable for fans to attend in the markets because there's just a ton of supply, a ton of unsold inventory, and it's definitely going to be a pace to wait market, in my opinion, for I would say 60 to 80% of the matches in the group stage round or in the
Mm.
early stage rounds.
And this is also the first time that FIFA has implemented this expanded tournament. So
Yep.
with that comes obviously more teams and teams that typically would not have qualified for the
Hmm.
tournament. So in terms of quality of those teams, with all due respect to those nations,
Right.
they aren't as big of a draw that they would be compared to a smaller tournament.
Exactly. You're gonna have a lot of these, unknown countries obviously not bringing a lot of fans from overseas, and, it'll be interesting to see, Jake. I mean, will the obviously the US base, I mean, obviously FIFA World Cup bucket list item. I think people are gonna definitely pay to go. I think the majority of the matches are gonna sell out, but at what ticket price will they sell out? Because I don't think for a game between like, just an example. I mean, I don't know. You probably know these countries better than I do, but for a game like Iran and Scotland or whatever in Mexico, if they're I mean, how many people are actually going to go to those games? How many people are going to pay the price to see them? So it'll be extremely fascinating to see about in the early stage rounds of affordable ticket prices across the landscape. And I think fans will be surprised that there'll be deals to attend these early stage round FIFA World Cup games.
And plus, lots of these games are happening during daytime hours and on weekdays,
Yep.
and that's again a difference between kind of like this European mentality and this American mentality. If you have in Europe, if you have a weekday game in the afternoon, people will still pretty much attend regardless, even if it is, quote unquote, a work day for the vast majority of the populace.
Right.
For with America, it might be slightly different. Of course, it's the summer months here, so more people are on vacation. The kids are
Right.
not in school, so that's definitely one factor at play. But at the same time, I mean, if you have an early afternoon kickoff, like how many people are really good to attend that if it's also a business day?
Think a lot of people are gonna call sick days, for the Cup this year,
Maybe,
so we'll
yeah,
see, absolutely,
yeah.
no, that raises a good point, obviously, the American corporate world culture, I mean, obviously, you gotta go to work and so forth, and, it'll definitely bring down demand to a degree. How much will it bring it down? We will absolutely see, but I think they're gonna be, hearing a lot of sick days, calls here for the June and July, FIFA World Cup, but I think we're going to see deals, Jake. I really do. I think a lot of these matches are extremely overpriced, and I think that the majority of them are going to be very affordable for fans to attend in their particular markets in the early stage games.
Out of curiosity, this is kind of out of left field here, but do you also follow the U.S. box office when it comes to films?
U.S. box office when it comes to films,
Not so much.
very,
That's
not
okay.
as
No
much.
worries. Yeah, all right. No worries. Just wondering. Do you want to talk about TicketCon?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I'm stoked to do it. Obviously, I want to bring the entire ecosystem together. I know my base is mostly on the resale side, so my thesis with TicketCon is to bring together the entire live event community that love tickets, that love live events. So I don't care if we want fans to come, we want ticket resellers to come, we want rights holders to come, we want promoters, managers to come. I want the Randy Nichols of the world to come who debates me every day on the state of the ticketing legislation ecosystem. We just want to really have a conference to celebrate ticketing and all come together with TicketCon. And really that's the objective with it. And I really hope that down the road that we have a full-fledged 2-3 day conference and where we all come together as a community because there's just so many people that love going to live events. There's so much enthusiasm and there really isn't a conference out there that really encompasses all of ticketing. It's always kind of just like a sector of ticketing in most of the ticketing conferences that happen. And it's going to be in New Orleans on July 26th. Um, Doing it in New Orleans because it is right before the World Ticket Conference, which is a very big reselling conference. And I figured I'd piggyback to get some more attendees to come to TicketCon the day before on July 26th. So if you have a passion for ticketing, you have a passion for live events, Jake, we'll comp you a pass if you want to come down to New Orleans Sunday, July 26th. Come spend the weekend. We're going to have some other events before meet up on Saturday night for a happy hour. We're going to do a Monday morning coffee meetup. So really kind of a 3 day event, which our main event obviously happens 3 to 10 at the New Orleans Contemporary Arts Center, beautiful venue. We're fortunate to get on Sunday and food and beverages included. Buy tickets in my link on my X profile. We'd love to see you there. And Jake, you're welcome to attend to be my guest. Your pass is comped on me.
I appreciate that, Scott. Thank you very, very
You
much. And
bet.
it does sound like a really, really cool event. Scott, you've mentioned this with your Twitter, and you have a really great X account, by the way. I love
Thanks.
following it. What is the handle for those who want to follow you?
Yeah, X is my flagship social media at Scott Friedman 3. And, we just kind of tell like it is. And I'm going to get much into it in this podcast, but I really just want to right the wrongs in ticketing and make it fair for everyone to attend a live event. So you see a lot of my feed just kind of calling out bad practices, calling out people that are not doing the wrong things, calling out bad actors. And obviously, most importantly, keeping you up to date on all the biggest live events in the world, like we talked about during this podcast of what's going on in tickets every single day. So I love it. Follow me on X, follow me on my other social channels. And Jake will return the favor and have you on Ticket Talk here in the near future.
I will definitely take you up on that. Scott,
Awesome.
really appreciate the candor, really appreciate the insight. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about before we wrap?
No, I mean it's just a great time of year for live events and I'm stoked. Thanks so much for being on and look forward to covering all these live events if I can keep up. There's just so many and I'm looking at my phone probably 18 hours a day, too much. So I no longer have 20/20 vision like I used to because all I do is look at my phone for intel all day, every day. So
Well, hey, Scott, enjoy the Masters. Glad you got a chance to see it. Have a great week ahead, okay?
thanks, Jake. Thanks for having me on and we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks to Scott again. That was really great. He lifted the veil on how ticketing actually works. The Masters certainly is fascinating, but like Scott said, it is their choice to enforce this policy of curtailing the secondary market. All right, it's time once again for Jake's Takes, and this segment covers a very serious subject. On Tuesday, Tiger Woods announced he was taking an indefinite leave from golf. The full statement. I know and understand the seriousness of the situation I find myself in today. I am stepping away for a period of time to seek treatment and focus on my health. This is necessary in order for me to prioritize my well-being and work toward lasting recovery. I'm committed to taking the time needed to return in a healthier, stronger, and more focused place, both personally and professionally. I appreciate your understanding and support and ask for privacy from my family, loved ones, and myself at this time. It caps a whirlwind span of several days that started with him playing in the TGL Finals on Tuesday, March 24th. There had been some speculation, which ramped up following his TGL cameo, that Tiger could compete in this year's Masters, but it felt somewhat unrealistic. President Trump, in a phone interview on Thursday, March 26th's episode of the Fox News evening program The Five, said Woods would not be playing. You have to remember, Trump's ex-daughter-in-law is currently dating Tiger, so presumably POTUS would be more informed than most. Then, on Friday, the 27th, Woods was involved in yet another crash, his latest brush with severe injury. The historical record, frankly, is not good for him. In 2009, there was his highly publicized infidelity and crash into a fire hydrant. In 2017, shortly after having back surgery, he was found asleep behind the wheel in a car with 2 flat tires. He was arrested on suspicion of DUI. Tests showed prescription drugs in his system. He said he had an unanticipated reaction to medication he'd been taking. He pleaded guilty to reckless driving, and the DUI charge was dropped. In 2021, he nearly had to have his leg amputated after crashing and rolling over while driving around 85 miles per hour. And now, in 2026, another rollover, a result of colliding with a pickup truck's trailer as he was trying to pass the vehicle. He told police he was looking at his phone and changing a radio station. 2 opioid pills, which can be used for chronic pain relief, were found on his person. Now, he passed the breathalyzer test but showed signs of impairment, including dilated pupils, and he refused a urine test. He has been charged with 1 count of DUI with property damage and 1 count of refusal to submit to a lawful test. He has pleaded not guilty, but that feels somewhat incongruent with the statement he put out on Tuesday that he would be seeking treatment. The best thing for Tiger is to stay out of the public spotlight as much as possible, so he can focus on himself and confront his demons head on. Obviously, he can afford the very best treatment. Lack of resources here is not the problem, rather it's a lack of willpower. But it is also in the business interests of golf that Woods back away. TGL has to entirely divorce itself from Tiger. Now, that is easier said than done. Tiger is a co-founder of Tomorrow Sports, which is the holding company of TGL, alongside fellow golfer Rory McIlroy and longtime experienced sports media executive Mike McCarley. Not to mention, Tiger also is on one of the teams. But there's too much riding on this. TGL just concluded its 2nd season. It is still very, very young. There are currently 6 teams: Atlanta, Boston, Jupiter Lynx, Los Angeles, New York, and the Bay. A 7th team, Motor City, debuts in 2027. Some of these franchises have recently been valued at or around $100 million. They're in the process of also launching a women's league, WTGL, which so far has had 2 franchises sold for a reported $20 million each. Why such large valuations? Well, small number of players for one thing, and what really helps too is that all these matches occur at one single venue, which keeps costs down. They've also done quite well in securing sponsorships and investment from big-name athletes and other celebrities. Get used to hearing this name, Tomorrow Sports. They were handpicked by the NFL to create an NFL-backed flag football league for men and women. Flag football is an initiative the NFL has taken very seriously in the past several years. There was a lot of politicking involved to get flag football onto the LA 28 Olympic program. Many prominent individuals are backing this new league, including Tom Brady, the Manning brothers, Joe Montana, Steve Young, Serena Williams, and Billie Jean King, among others. And a lot of heavy hitters from the private equity world are involved in this. Now, Tomorrow's role has been known for some months, but the official announcement about this partnership was released this week, timed in concert with the NFL's owners' meetings. Notably, Tiger was not mentioned in the press release, yet about 20 other people were, including McCarley, but not McElroy. The logic here probably was it would be strange to leave only Tiger out, so other golfer co-founder McElroy was likewise omitted. That by itself makes Tiger's involvement here untenable. You can't have these missteps. You can't have a person with this kind of reputation lead the company moving forward. Perhaps Tiger can stay on as a silent partner, but he can no longer be the face of this organization. And this isn't just TGL. Tiger also chairs the PGA Tour's Future Competitions Committee, which will shape season structure, the scheduling of marquee events, the identifying of new markets, revamping the postseason format, and perhaps even introducing a relegation system. These are all very big decisions. Now, presumably when Tiger says he's stepping away from the sport, it means he likewise is exiting these obligations. The PGA of America has also confirmed Woods will not serve as captain of the 2027 Ryder Cup U.S. team. And that undoubtedly is the correct move. The optics of having Tiger at the helm are bad enough, but he additionally has proven time and again with his actions that he cannot and should not hold that amount of power or responsibility or be in any position of authority. PGA Tour CEO Brian Rolapp has been on the job for a little less than a year now, after previously spending over 2 decades with the NFL, where he was, without question, one of the most influential executives professional football has ever had, particularly on the media rights side of things. Some, including myself, think Rolapp has a very good chance of succeeding Goodell as the NFL's next commissioner when the time comes. Rolapp essentially has been given a mandate here to usher in the PGA into its next era. And he certainly has the business acumen to know when it's time to distance oneself from a distraction. And herein lies the crux of the matter. It would be one thing if Tiger was still at his peak playing days, racking up victory after victory to distract from his sordid actions. But he's 50. Tiger is 50 years old. Now, this is golf. There are plenty of golfers who still play very well at a high level after passing the half-century mark. But Tiger is perpetually injured. There's a whole generation out there now that knows Woods not for his triumphs at the Masters, but for his multiple mugshots and his highly publicized infidelity and sex addiction treatment. They know him not for his breaking down of social and racial barriers, but for his repeated breaking of the law. The dominance, the clutch performances, the roar of the crowd, the jubilation, they're but a figment of the past. There is a generational divide with Woods, which, to be fair, is the case with almost any notable person as time marches on. But here it is particularly prominent. The goodwill he's accumulated when he was at the top of his sport, which was some time ago now, can no longer shield him. It's getting harder to say that having Tiger on your masthead is a net positive. Hopefully Tiger at long last gets the help he needs. I really, really hope he does. For his sake, for the sake of others, just think about the lives he has endangered. But also for the sake of the sport of golf. The popularity of golf skyrocketed during Tiger's glory days. But as the sport's protagonist descended into an anti-hero, golf seems poised to navigate its next chapter without him. And that concludes this episode. I'd like to thank Scott Friedman again for lending his insight into the ticketing world. Video episodes of this pod are available on both Twitter/X and YouTube. On Twitter, that's at Jake A. Klein, that's JakeAKline, and at and at Pathway to the Pod. On YouTube, it's at Pathway to the Podium Pod. You can also follow us on Instagram and TikTok, Pathway to the Podium. Received a lot of positive feedback on the prior episode where Caroline Price and I talk figure skating and gymnastics. That's definitely worth a listen to if you haven't already. Wishing you all a very happy and safe weekend and week ahead. Bye, everyone.